Yes, they are. I heard my husband.
Great.
Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. It's Tuesday, April 22nd, Earth Day. It is about 7:45 p.m. We just came from executive session where we were discussing boards, commissions, and committees. The first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing regarding public hearing on a proposed local law or amendments to a proposed local law amending Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code concerning seasonal leaf blower restrictions. So can I please have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein?
Did you call my, yes, sorry. Sorry. Yes, and I should have said, and I apologize, that trustee Morlino is unable to be with us tonight, attending to a personal matter. So, you know, this law has been in effect for a little while. Chris, do you want to give a little background on the proposed amendment and why this was recommended to us?
Sure, happy to. So currently, there is a seasonal leaf blower ban from May 1st through September 30th of each year. And that's been in place, and the code currently requires that a warning be provided prior to issuing any ticket for a violation of this particular section of the village code. And unfortunately, what we have is the police chief came to us and said, we don't have a mechanism in the field to record, and so that people know whether or not a warning's been given in the past, so that we know that we can then issue a ticket for repeat violators. But the police do tend, because they're kind of eyes and ears in the streets, they do have a sense over, they know usually, you know, which one is a one-time thing versus regular contractors, regular locations where it continues to come and have violators of this particular section of the code. So what the police chief has asked is that and until there's a better mechanism to be able to track it in the field, that the section requiring a warning be removed from the code so that the police can have the discretion to give a warning, but they don't have to give a warning or a ticket at first. It'll be up to the police department to have that discretion. And the problem is, by having this in the code, we're not doing anything, because since there's not a recognition to be able to track the warning, we're not able to issue a ticket, because otherwise it would be thrown out and not, you know, in court. So that's why the recommendation has come to the board this way, and the recommendation is to remove that until there is a system in place where we could track it, so that the discretion would lie with the police officers in the field.
Chris, forgive me, but I'm totally confused. If we can't now track when we give a warning, how, giving the police the discretion to give a warning, would we be able to track it?
Well, we tend to have, when there's repeat calls, when there's there's a desk that we're getting somebody out there, they tend to know. It's not a very large community in a lot of ways for the police that are on the field. We only have 2 officers out there. They tend to be in the same areas. They tend to know those that they've talked to in the past.
I would think those same 2 police officers would know who they've given warnings to.
If that's a possibility.
I mean, they can
If it's the same one that did it the last time, but they'd have to track it themselves. It's not like you pull it up in the computer, from what I understand. I'm sharing, if you want to wait, if you want to wait for the chief to come back, you could do that.
I
but
don't mean to kill the message.
I've taken it probably as far as I can.
I understand.
David, you make an excellent point. What's the point?
What I'm trying to get across to you, though, is right now, we're not issuing warnings or tickets, because if they're issuing warnings, it's only going out and saying, stop it. We're not tracking it.
So there's no teeth at all.
No.
And we'd like there to be teeth.
Listen, they're gonna lean on issuing warnings in general.
I take the points of if you can't track warnings, how you track other things, and so I was skeptical to start. So, and being new on the board and not being around 2 years ago when this law was passed, I started looking at what other villages were doing. There's very, very few that had warnings built into their law. And to the extent they did, it was for the first month or two. Maybe I looked at maybe 15 of these in Westchester. I think I found 3 that had warnings. One was for a month, one was for 2 months, and one was for the first season. We're past all those things. So I'm comfortable with it, but not as a way to say, hey, let's go crazy issuing tickets.
No, that's not the intent, yeah.
On the other hand, I will say some communities had first violation is X amount of money, and that it ramped up pretty steeply.
Right.
We don't have that, which is fine.
That actually would be easier to track.
I think that.
Oh, because then you can see how much money.
Tickets,
yeah.
when the tickets come in, you're able to track it.
I think that you bring up an excellent point. Excellent point. And thank you for doing all that research. I think that's the way to do it, to change the violation schedule.
All right, so it would be, what that would be essentially is that we would, in this public hearing, we would remove the warning, and then what we would have to
modify
do
the fee
is
schedule.
modify the fee schedule at a future meeting, probably our next meeting we'd be able to.
You could.
Because that doesn't require a public hearing,
Yep.
does it, or does it
No.
not? No.
Well, one thing about that I noticed is now I'm out of my element here, but our statute, the fee, the penalty refers to a different section of the code that's more generic. Like the penalties aren't built into the leaf blower section. I don't know if that matters, but
What would have to do, it might involve a change in the local law, because right now it's a violation of the village code, which would go to court, which would be either you pay a violation or you go to court, right? So you'd be violating this section of the village code. There is a way to word it so that it becomes a pay violation, that you would have to, there's pluses and minuses of that, where you could, in the code, in the law, refer to the fee schedule. The other thing is, if it doesn't get paid, then it becomes a different type of an issue, because now it's not a court violation. So it takes it out of the court violation area and into
Maybe-
a fee
yeah.
issue
Is
without
that-
any
is
teeth.
that better? Do we really want to send people to court for this?
No, but people often don't pay the other types of violations.
Okay, so,
May I
sounds like
make
the
a
whole fee
suggestion?
thing is its
Why
own.
don't we keep this public hearing open and not make a decision on the change in the local law until we know exactly what we want to do?
That works for me.
It's fine.
Excellent point.
Fine with me.
All right, it is a public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public about this? Seeing none, let's,
I would suggest that you either set a public continue
Oh,
the
we
public hearing
probably
for another
wanna-
fixed date, otherwise you'd have to renotice, or you close the public hearing if you're not ready to take any action at all.
let's close the public hearing, because what we'll probably end up doing is we'll have to reopen another public hearing based on,
If you want to take an action now, you leave it open and just put it forward in like a month, and you could revisit and still modify it.
That's what I was suggesting, is just keep it open.
That way you don't have to open a new one.
if we make changes to the code, however, do we still have to renotice anyway?
You don't have to renotice, as long as the public hearing is open and to a date certain, you don't have to renotice it.
Right, because we could have made changes to this
You will
code
have to wait,
tonight,
if it's substantive, you'll have to wait a period of time before you can act on it, that's all.
but it can stay open.
Correct.
I think that's the way to go.
All right, let's go to second meeting in May.
Okay.
May 27th.
So you should have a motion to adjourn it to May 27, adjourn the
Yeah, 'cause
public hearing.
I just don't think we would be able to have the changes by the meeting on the 13th.
Yeah, so the 27th, that's what I was saying.
Although 3 weeks from now, potentially, we could.
Yes, you could. I think you could.
I'm not going to be at the
Good.
next meeting, but I will be at the 27th.
Let's postpone this to the 27th. Can I have a motion and a second, please, to keep the public hearing open and postpone this conversation to
So
May
moved to
27th?
amend.
Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thank you. So we are going to skip resolution number 1. All right, moving to resolution number 2, considering exemption as extension of chapter 158, section 2.1 of the village code regarding a seasonal leaf blower ban for Talcott Woods HOA.
Okay, whereas, since we've had a lot of these, I'm going to summarize this a little bit shorter. So whereas the board adopted a local law enacting a seasonal leaf blower ban, gas-powered leaf blower ban from May 1st to September 30th, and whereas properties of 5 acres or more can apply for an exemption or exception of the local law, and whereas we've made that widely known through the various means, and whereas a 1-year exemption was was granted by Brook and expired on October 1st, 2024 in Talcott Woods, and whereas on April 13th, 2025, Representative Talcott Woods HOA submitted an application for an exemption from the requirements of the local law requiring a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Now therefore be resolved that after consideration of the intent of the local law, as well as considerations raised in the application from representatives of Talcott Woods HOA, the Board of Trustees hereby denies, approves, or approves with conditions the request for the exemption of the village code, and be it further resolved that the approval exemption includes any conditions that the board considers appropriate.
Thank you, Chris. And we're going to hold off on motion second because we don't know what's going to be involved in that. I would say that in the previous approval, it stated from July 1st to August 31st for home numbers 20 to 32 and home numbers 60 to 68. Only one gas blower will be used, with any additional being electric. And from May 1st to September 30th, all gas-powered leaf blowers will be operated at no more than half throttle. Do we have representatives from the Talcott HOA?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Richard Mast. I reside at 6 Talcott Road, and I serve at as the president of the Talcott Woods Homeowners Association Board of Directors. With me is our landscaping contractor of almost 20 years, Vito Longo, owner of Vito Longo Landscaping. We appreciate being able to meet with you this evening. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to review our application and the accompanying letter. So just a couple of comments, and then we're happy to answer questions. To refresh your memories, Talcott Woods is a private homeowners development built in 1978, consisting 25 acres of both common property and 68 homes. Vito and his team are contracted to mow, weed, seed, mulch, prune, clear, and clean our common property, as well as all 68 lots of front, back, and side yards of grass cuttings, branches, fallen trees, and miscellaneous debris that finds its way into our community. We take great pride in our development and also contract with Central Tree Service, New England Aquatic, the Pond Connection, American Pool Management, and American Minuteman to maintain our property and our assets in order to present ourselves to Rye Brook visitors and potential buyers as a model community. Last year, we requested an exclusion to the newly enacted leaf blower law based on our commitment to you to do 4 things. Number 1, to confine all of our landscaping work to only 1 day a week, Mondays. Number 2, to use mulching blades for mowing in order to reduce the amount of blowing and dumping of our clippings. Number 3, to only use 1 gas blower and 4 new electric ones throughout July and August behind homes 20 to 32 and 60 to 68. And number 4, to run our blowers at half throttle from May 1st to September 30th. Greg Rivera audited us periodically during this past season, and I believe he would attest to the fact that we lived up to all 4 commitments. As we continued to adapt to the new law, as Vito's men continued to adjust to the new rules of the game, we are once again making the same 4 commitments to you and are respectfully requesting another 1 year of exclusion with those conditions. That's it.
Thank you. And I guess the question is, how's that been working? What was in the last?
Excuse me. Good evening. It's been working pretty good, but the biggest thing is with anybody that does a complex, it's not one home that you're going to clean. If you have one home, you walk in with a battery power blower, you can do it. But it's 68 different homes, so pretty much you're starting and you're just going straight down the street that you're picking up debris from every house in the road, so it's very difficult to stay with a battery operated for all 68 units. So anybody that has that kind of homeowner association has that many things, I think a gas blower is very essential, and at half throttle, we are able to do it, especially in July and August. So that's the biggest request is because it's 68 individual homes that we're maintaining and cleaning pretty much the whole road itself in the front, and that's where we're using these gas blowers in the summer for.
Right, and have you been using the electric as well, or no?
Yes, we have. We've been using the electric. All the residential homes where we have one house here, one house there, we've been using it. At Talcott, when they do the cleanup behind the homes, like the patios, the walkways, we've been using those. July and August, it's not a problem because you don't get that much debris, but May and June is very tough because of the amount, the grass is growing, all the trees are shedding, and so it makes it tough to use a battery operator, especially when you're doing 68 units one after another.
Which brand have you purchased?
We use a green.
Greenworks?
Yes, Greenworks.
And you find that that's sufficient?
That was, yes. It's okay. It's okay. It's not at the level we want it to be. You know, speaking to all the different providers, we use Argento's over in White Plains to buy our product, and that's the one that most of the people that they use. So we went with that. It'll get there someday, but it's not there today. So the reason we would definitely need it because of the 68 individual homes. Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
No, I also say thank you for the letter describing all that you do for the environment, and, you know, it's a lot, so we appreciate it.
Very thorough.
One question, how close do you think you get with the gas blowers to the structures, to the houses? Some of the exemptions we've given, people have promised to say 50 feet away with the gas. Is that?
I mean, like where Talcott is, there's no other residence beside the
Right, no, but I mean, of a typical Talcott house, when you are using the gas at half throttle, how close to the homes are you getting? Like you're getting right up to the side of the house, or you?
No. We stay away pretty much from the house. Anything close to the house, like with the sidewalks and the walkways, we try to use the battery operated. The gas ones we use mostly away from the house and below the road itself, because the road is a big road and it does accumulate a lot of debris.
Okay. And is that also help with the, you're responsible for the storm basin cleanouts and things, so this is helping keep the storm basins cleaner?
As well as the two waterways, we have the Crawford Park waterway.
Yeah.
And then we have the one that runs up the left side of the whole street. So the answer is yes, it does help.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? All right, so it sounds like they're asking for a one-year extension with the same conditions as last year. If people are okay with that, can I have a motion and a second on that?
So moved.
Second?
Any questions or comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Did we ever read the resolution? Yeah, we did.
Yes,
Okay.
we did.
Yes, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
All right, resolution number 3, considering request of extension exemption of Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code regarding a seasonal leaf blower ban for Kingfield HOA.
Okay, whereas the board approved a local law enacting a seasonal leaf blower ban from May 1st to September 30th of each year, and whereas properties of 5 acres or more can ask for an exemption or extension, and whereas an exemption was granted on October 1st, 2024, a one-year exemption was granted, and whereas on April 16th, 2025, representatives of Kingfield HOA submitted an application for an exemption from the requirements of the local law requiring a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Now therefore be it resolved that after consideration of the intent of the local law, as well as considerations raised in the application from representatives of Kingfield HOA, the Board of Trustees hereby either approves, denies, or approves with conditions for request for an exemption from the Village Code.
Thank you, Chris. And again, we'll hold off on the motion and second until we have discussion. I believe we have a representative of Kingfield HOA. Yes, you're the, right.
We just started at the place this year, so I don't know what the exemption that was given there before. But we're just asking, same thing, we take care of all the streets in there, and the city doesn't even come in there to sweep the streets because they're all private roads. So with a battery operated is, just about impossible to try.
So you're new to the property,
To that property.
right, to
yes.
this
Yeah, we
property.
started
Do
this
you
year.
own any electric units?
Well, we have the exemption for Belfair. We take care of Belfair.
Oh, you take care
Yeah.
of Belfair as well?
So we have riding mowers that are battery operated, we have weed eater, we have push mowers, and handheld battery operated also. So, we're trying to go battery on some more of the equipment, but
Right.
it's, it's
Yeah, and
still
I'm
not-
trying to
it's
think, I
still not at
mean-
the point right now.
And with some of the HO, and the reason I ask is just because some of the HOAs, some of the exemptions that we've had, have asked for electric use on the stoops and pathways specifically.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's in effect in Belfair.
Yeah, in Belfair, we use the battery on the driveways and sidewalks, and on the lawn areas, when there's more debris, we could use a battery, gas.
Right.
But in Belfair, the roads are all cleaned by, the town goes in there and cleans the roads. Where
Right, because we have the
here-
street sweeper, right.
Right, where here is just private roads, so the town never goes in there.
Right.
So,
No, and I was
we
just wondering whether you'd be willing in Kingfield to do similar to Belfair of having
Fine. Yeah, as well,
patios, to having like stoops and sidewalks.
with the battery.
Driveways.
Hardscapes, like
And if we could
hardscapes?
do,
Well, but not all hardscape because it can't
No.
include the road.
Okay.
If we could just concentrate it to say all the driveways and the roadways to use the gas powered, and then whatever sidewalks and patios in the back, decks, we'll use battery for that. Because it's the same thing, there's, 90
Driveway's right next
homes
to
in
the
there.
house.
Hmm?
It's so tight there.
Oh, right, it is tight there.
But they're responsible for the storm, they're doing the street cleaning, which is a
Yeah.
convincing issue, because
Yeah.
that's, what is it, MP4, or what is it?
And there
called?
were no
MS4.
MS4.
They have to?
Yeah.
You can't use, you
Yeah,
can't
and it's
use the
because
leaf
it's
blower.
private roads.
Do they know that?
No. I don't even think they know that.
No, I mean,
Street
that's,
sweeper.
that's something that we probably have to bring up to them.
We may need Michael to follow up with the HOA on that one.
How many acres is,
Pretty sure it's 20-something acres, the whole property, because there's, was there 90 homes in there?
110?
110? They, this
Do you
would
do just the Kingfield section, or just the homes?
be- Yeah, yeah.
Not the office parks.
No. It just starts
That's
like at
110
the end of
homes,
the
10
office
homes.
park, pretty much.
I know, but I don't know if we ever heard from the office.
Ah.
Anyway. All right, how would we
Can
feel?
you- When,
Yes.
can you keep the throttle at 50%? Supposedly that's a big reduction of.
Driveways?
Yeah, I mean, we could, anything is better than, just using battery, because number one, the batteries don't last, and even at half throttle, the gas is gonna have more, capability than the battery operated.
Then possibly we're electric on stoops, walkways, patios.
And 50% when you have to use the gas
Yeah, That's
on
fine.
other surfaces.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's mostly for the road, that's the biggest thing.
Right.
When you're trying to get around, the battery's only gonna last
right.
20 minutes, half hour.
Does that sound okay, what
Yeah,
we've
maybe we can work
proposed?
with that. Yeah, that's fine, we can work with it. Anything is,
Yeah.
better than just doing with batteries.
Let me ask you for the future, because in doing my research, perhaps 2 years ago when Rybrook passed this ordinance, let's say we were sort of on the cutting edge, not really, but now there has been an immense number, there's like
Every town.
two-thirds or more of the villages, and now we're to the point where some of these villages are outlawing use of gas at all, ever.
Yeah.
And so are you ready for that? And it's,
Nobody's going to be ready for that.
I mean, we're talking some big
Yeah.
municipalities that are doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when they're
No,
just
absolutely.
blocking the summer months, that's fine. You know, some of them are doing even in the spring.
Some of them are doing year-round,
All
yeah.
right. What I'm saying is like spring and summer, everybody could deal with that.
Yeah.
When the fall comes, because there's only the battery operated, there's no push blowers that are battery yet. So, you know, when you're going on these bigger houses, you know, you have this much leaves on it. You know,
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with a little bit? So you're gonna see a lot, you know. I know some towns are going that way,
But
but.
they haven't thought it through, is what
nobody-
you're saying.
right. Nobody's gonna be capable of keeping, you know, all the leaves cleaned with, you know, especially in the fall. Like we said, you know, spring and summer, that's, you know.
I'm noticing also that more people seem to be using the big battery backpacks now. Is that
That's-
helping, or is that
that's
no?
just the battery. It's not
Just to
giving
try to give you more,
Right.
it doesn't give you more oomph, it just gives you more length of time.
More
Right.
time.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a handheld, you know, same CFM. It's just when you put the small battery packs in there, maybe you get 20 minutes to a half hour, where with those, you get 45 minutes to an hour maybe, depending on, you know, how you use the throttle. So,
Okay.
All right. So if that
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
okay to
that's
you,
fine.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we could do that.
all right, so I think what we have, Chris, how do you want this to read?
So I think somebody needs to make a motion to establish the following conditions, which is that driveways would be used at 50% throttle for gas, and that battery or electric leaf blowers would be used on stoops, walkways, patios, and decks.
As amended. So moved.
And as much grass as possible, right? You know, especially close to the house. So I don't know, maybe that's too, too conditional.
So you need a second. I think we have a
Yeah, I
motion.
think.
Okay, that's too much.
Second. Okay. All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes,
And Mayor Klein?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
And good luck to everyone through the season, you know? All right. Resolution number 4. Considering adoption of the Village of Rybrook 25-26 annual budget.
Whereas the administrator filed the budget on March 20th, 2025, and whereas the Board of Trustees held two budget work sessions on March 31st and April 7th, and whereas a public hearing was held on April 8th pursuant to the notice of hearing on the tentative budget, at which time any members of the public were given an opportunity to be heard, and whereas the public hearing was closed on the same evening, and whereas on January 25th, the Board of 2005, the Board of Trustees adopted a local law allowing for homestead-based proportions, and whereas in February 20th, 2025, the town of Rye adopted a resolution on the base proportions, which allowed for basically 79.88 for homestead properties and 20.12 for non-homestead properties for the purposes of the tax levy for the Village of Rybrook. And whereas on February 25th, 2025, the board adopted a resolution concurring with the town of Rye for the same proportions for the purposes of the 2024-2025 tax levy for the village. That should be for the 25-26. And whereas the total assessable value for the village tax purposes is $3.6 billion, and I won't go through all the numbers, but it's basically 3.655,749,663, and based upon the amendments made by the village board and discussed at the work sessions and public hearing, would result in a homestead tax rate of 5.0805 and a non-homestead tax rate of 7.9553 per $1,000 of assessed value, which is a 5.4788 blended tax rate overall. And whereas the village board authorizes the receiver of taxes to collect the property taxes necessary to raise the required $20,029,122 tax levy based upon the most updated assessment roll provided by the assessor. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees makes the following amendments to the tentative budget, which are hereby adopted. And there's a listing of the various modifications that were made at the village work sessions on those 2 dates that were mentioned earlier. And there's a listing of expenditure changes, license and fee schedule changes, and various changes that were made at those meetings. And be it further resolved that the tentative budget is hereinafter here set forth and amended by the board is hereby adopted as the annual budget for the Village of Rybrook for the fiscal year beginning June 1st, 2025. And be it further resolved that the capital projects identified in the budget are hereby established and funded for the total amount of $2,115,667. And be it further resolved that the amounts listed therein for payment of principal and interest on indebtedness and the maintenance account charges identified in the budget be paid, and that salaries, wages, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment for all employees, including those not represented by a bargaining unit, shall be paid such salaries and benefits as has been determined by the Board of Trustees. And be it further resolved that the board does hereby authorize a tax levy for the sum of $20,029,122 for general capital and special maintenance account funds, which, based upon the Town of Rye assessable tax roll for the Village of Rybrook and applying the approved homestead-based proportions, would result in a homestead tax rate of $5.0805 and non-homestead tax rate of 7.9553 per thousand of assessed valuation.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second. Giving you an opportunity.
Sorry, I was just.
All right,
okay,
comments
I
from
don't
the
wanna-
board?
Are we going to have another slideshow?
No.
If you like, we can pull it out.
No.
Sure, you want to?
No,
Please,
Trish
come
wants to
on.
go home.
One more time.
No, even Trish is saying no.
One more time.
Any comments from the board?
I'm a little
Just thank you again.
Yeah, and I would say this over and over and over and over, and I say it again, how great of a job Trish, Chris, Lawrence, the department heads, how great of a job you've done on the budget year after year after year. It's just, it's just amazing how, there's not an argument between board and staff on this. We don't have to come through with major changes. It's the audits come back clean year after year, and it's not like there's any fluff created in this. Things aren't made up. It's, when the audits come back, when the actual budget occurs, unless there's something completely unforeseen, we can never predict the snow conditions that are coming next winter. We don't know what's going to happen with.
Michael can predict them.
We don't know what's going to happen. Well, apparently we don't know what's going to happen with any street opening permits. But again, we don't know. There may be unexpected items, but aside from those unexpected items, it's
It's a tight budget.
the budget that you see is the budget that you get.
No, absolutely. But
And-
like you said, though, it is a collaborative effort from the board, department heads to every staff member. Everybody's working together for the same common goals, and that's really, I think, what it's about. Trying to provide quality services at a reasonable cost.
Right. And it does. And as I said in the last meeting, I think, and the meeting before that, is that this budget does protect the services that the residents of Rybrook have come to expect. And that for us sitting up here, that's what it's all about. Is, you move into Rybrook, you expect certain things. Your streets get cleared in the snowstorms. You have community-based police. You have your emergency services between fire, police, EMS respond quickly and professionally. And there's so much that happens behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about that really keep this village running smoothly. And I think we're the least talked about, board in Lower Westchester maybe, because of what's happening in this building and with the village staff. And just thank you to everyone for working within the budget, within the budget restrictions, and for creating something that really keeps all aspects of the residents in mind. So, thank you.
I always analogize it to a theatrical production. When you're in the audience, what you see looks lovely, but you have no idea how much work and effort went to making it look lovely. And so I echo what the mayor said. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank all the department heads for all their cooperation. And thank you, Greg, too.
Yes.
Want to say something?
No, I tell you, I worked for hours to try to have some valid comments, and it's so well done. I really applaud it. And I could say to anyone that asks me, first of all, Rybrook's budget as a percentage of the total tax bill that residents in Rybrook pay goes somewhere between, and it was on Chris's slide, 19 to 24%. So you get an awful lot of services for that 19 to 24%. Not to cast aspersions on anybody else, but I worked hard comparing it to other villages, to everything I could find, and I'm also very impressed that the village employees work hard to keep things very smoothed out. They're thinking 2 and 3 years ahead. That's really pro level, because it's easy to start to, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, and the fire truck was paid for a couple of years ago or a year ago, and now it's going to be built soon. But like, that is stuff that I did not appreciate until 9 hours of looking through all the line items with your help. So thank you. Very, very appreciated, and can't say enough. And just, second everything you just said.
I concur, and thank you. We have fresh eyes on it this year with Don coming here, and to have his analyses, and it actually just echoes what we've believed to be the case, and I've been on the board now, I think, 12 years, so thank you. It's a well-oiled machine. We are grateful for everybody's help and service.
And I would say that, what you pointed out is so apt, that it's just, you can pour over this budget for hours, and it's difficult to find things.
Yes, it is.
To really, you almost feel like you're nitpicking, because you have to find these little things, and it's like, me keeping my list of the vest replacements.
Right.
So, again, thank you all.
But before we vote on it, I just have one question. We had some issues with something that we didn't bring up yet.
Okay, you wanted to talk about the chamber?
Yes.
Okay. So, yes, as part of the budget, one of the things that was increased, my understanding is that this is a single-year increase, or is it?
No, it was intended to be an ongoing.
They want us to fund it.
They're looking for us to provide more funding for the chamber to support local businesses in the two communities.
As a quick question, is this common in other municipalities?
I couldn't answer that without doing a more in-depth survey of that.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Whether this is common in other municipalities for them to support the chamber activities?
Something we could certainly do. It'd be easy enough to do, to be able to look back and do some surveys of some other communities, how they support the chamber, whether it be in-kind services or whether it be financial, what type of benefits or assistance they provide. I can do that for you guys.
Is the chamber proposing to do more work
Yeah,
with the
that,
local businesses?
and I think it's, I think I provided some data to you guys on some of the history of what's going on in recent years. I provided their financials. We actually have their financial planner coming in at a future meeting coming in, so we can try to provide more assistance to them. But I would venture to say, and what's been pitched to us, without the municipal support, it's very unlikely they'd be able to continue in any similar way right now.
Did Portchester pass theirs?
It's in their budget, and my understanding is that they were going to pass that. Like, it was raised at their hearing, and it was raised in the presentation by the manager, and it seemed to have support from everyone. That's secondhand that I heard from, but I heard that from the chamber president, the board president, who is Fritz Valanka, as well as Stewart as well.
And what about the town of Rice?
Town of Rye has never contributed towards it. They're going to be approaching the town as well.
I thought they would have done that by now. That's why I'm asking.
If they've done it, it's been the last 2 weeks. They did reach out to them, remember, they have a different fiscal year? They did reach out to them several months ago, but it wasn't in this year's budget, so they're going to be approaching them about becoming a more active member or contributor towards the chamber. Because right now, remember, they're in a calendar year.
Personally, I don't, I think this is unfortunate that, the chamber finds itself in the position it does. My personal feeling is that this is something that supports our local businesses. So, but I think, but also my personal feeling is that we may need to approach this in a different way, similar to how we've approached in the past, other intermunicipal organizations or organizations that exist, almost EMS, the library, because, there is, it's a question of, this is a multi-municipal chamber, and where that support is actually going. I mean, I know it does support Rybrook businesses. There's no doubt about that. We know that. They've had events at Rybrook businesses.
Yeah, I'd say the last chamber director did an awful lot to involve Rybrook, more so in probably my first 15, 20 years maybe here. So the last director did a lot more for Rybrook, and I think the board saw the value in having a chamber that was more active in the community. That said, certainly there's more businesses in Portchester than there is in Rybrook. There's no doubt about that. So it's important to us that they keep the perspective. I think that's a message that should be sent, is that, in order to, since we're paying basically each supporting it by $10,000, which is a big increase, that we need to see the results there too. And we can build that into it if the board wants to. And if there's like a liaison maybe from the board, it might be helpful if somebody was willing to be a liaison with the chamber as well as myself. So I think that would be helpful to have, so that message can be relayed. And, this way also I know what the needs are of the board and what the expectations are. Because we are currently, there's a new chamber director, and we are developing, and I'm helping develop some of the goals that are being set for the next year as a new director. I think, ultimately it'd be great that they didn't need our support, but it's hard to go to the members and asking for more money when hasn't been a lot of activity recently. They need to build that back up again in order to, then maybe that is the goal, is to reduce the burden on the municipalities once the value is understood and demonstrated to people that are looking, they can try to get as members.
What's the mechanism for collecting the dues? They did not collect them in the past.
They were not consistent in getting all the collection.
So that is an issue.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at this further before it's included. That's just my
Well,
feeling.
it's in the budget right now, so
I
you couldn't
know.
adopt the budget right now if you want to take it out. If you want to
We have
include
to
it.
adopt the budget tonight.
Well, I
Or
brought
have a
this up
special
last.
meeting.
I did bring this up.
No, what I said was, and I was clear, you can't adopt the budget and remove it tonight. You
What
could
can you
have a
do?
special meeting, or you could just say not to forward the money on June 1st until you get authorization from the board.
Right. It's a budget, but it's not approved as an actual
Funded,
expenditure yet.
it's funded as an expenditure, but it won't be paid until the board has satisfied that it should be paid.
I would go for that. I don't think that it
Then
should be.
I think I
that way.
need some board, more direction from the board in terms of what your goals, what would satisfy you in terms of goal setting, what you think it should be done on that. So I may need a working group to work with the board on that.
Right,
with
but
the
that's separate
chamber.
from passing the budget.
Yes.
I understand. Thank you for outlining it that way. That's my belief.
Chris, just so you know my concern, it's just that if Rybrook, the villages of Rybrook and the village of Portchester are each putting in 10,000. Portchester has many times more businesses than we do. Then the question is, how are they going to allocate, how is the chamber going to allocate its resources?
Yes.
Right.
So that we
Agreed.
don't end up basically sort of subsidizing Portchester's business.
I've expressed something similar, that if the funds are going to be provided, there's going to be a clear outline of what the goals are for the Rybrook businesses.
Yeah.
And I will say, under the prior director, she made sure that happened. It was
Yes.
probably, when you look at the number of events, it was probably 50-50. looking backwards.
No,
So-
she did go out of her way to make sure Rybrook was.
There's no requirement, there's no requirement to do anything. I mean, what I'm trying to express is, you don't need to provide anything to the chamber. My concern would be that the chamber would not be able to operate because you couldn't afford a director.
Right.
So if you see the value in having the chamber, then you want to pursue a way to try to, provide the funding and/or the support, whether it be other ways as well, and to maybe get them off of to build it to a point where the goal might be to then not have that municipal support to the same level.
Hopefully, the other board members on the chamber will be as active as you are.
They are. No, it's an active group. It is good that way. I mean, and I will say, Richard Flanka he's done a very good job outlining that and working to find, making sure, he always makes sure Rybrook is well represented. I will say that he always mentions Rybrook in every sentence or conversation with the chamber. He's very good about that.
One of the questions seems like is, do the businesses value the chamber, right? That's the ultimate question.
I'd say
right?
there's a lot of work to be done there.
Right, and it seems like there's no universal answer, it's very community dependent, right? But some of the trends are, as national chains take over spots, perhaps they don't see as much value as, say, a local business person might. Maybe that's just my own bias, but are there any global or regional trends that are making these organizations defunct, or?
It's, I'd say that, in many ways, the larger businesses aren't so much the problem in this chamber. They actually pay a much higher fee, and they're more open to paying the higher fees.
Okay.
It's not as big of an impact.
Okay.
I think the harder one is trying to get the smaller businesses, because it's tight, in a lot of those smaller businesses, to say, what am I getting for it? And I think if you can't really demonstrate what you're getting for it, they'll make individual decisions saying, it's not enough for me, I think that's the harder one. So the question there is, how does a chamber communicate, show that there's value in becoming a chamber member, being a voice for them? Issues, are going to be different in each community. Portchester might be parking or something else. Be different than in Rybrook, where we have we don't have a Main Street parking issue. So those are the types of things that might be, information for restaurants, which is a tough group to get to because of their hours. So stuff like that. So how do you reach out in different ways to add value to those businesses? So, Sylvia Dundon, the last director, she tried to do Zoom educational meetings and connecting with local officials online. The networking meetings are important. Their big fundraiser, their biggest revenue source is a golf outing. And believe it or not, that's the biggest fundraising item that they do. And they do get very good revenue from that. They used to do a dinner, if you remember. It was originally a fundraiser. It got so expensive doing the dinner that they weren't really making anything out of it. It was very minimal. So
Hard to forget the
and
dinner.
and the people that were going were not always the businesses as much as the officials.
Right.
I just worry, without the Westmore News, how the chamber will be able to publicize businesses
Yeah.
locally. How they let them know about new businesses, current businesses, what's going on, if there's an event.
Yep. And that's one of the skills of the new director, which is they want to see and see it demonstrated. That's one of the things that she does. Certainly, I know personally, I think social media and networking, connecting with members is what, to me, a chamber should be about. It needs to get out to the membership. It needs to add value to those members, not just, promoting them, letting people know about what's going on in their communities, making them feel part of a community. I think that's all big, important things. It's how do you value that? And sometimes it's the owners of the shopping centers and others that don't support it. That's the hard one to overcome. That's more of a Rybrook issue.
All right, so in relation to this resolution before us, I think that, we have a motion and a second. I think we are all good passing the budget as it stands, including those funds being allocated in the budget. I would ask that we put together a small working group to discuss the specific chamber
funding.
The goals and the outline of what that funding, what it
yeah.
should be used for, and what the
And-
goals
and
are for the
that's
director.
Prior to, because no payments would be made because of our fiscal year, no payments would be made before June 1st anyway.
Correct.
That, we have over a month to have this small working group determine what it is that we'd like to see. What we'd like to see the village, since we're expending these funds, get out of this.
Expectations are.
What the expectations are, but also potentially to look to the future and how this may change in next year's budget.
One of the goals might be come up with a plan to not rely on that funding in the future if it's built to a certain
Right.
level.
Right.
I propose having the new person that's in the job have a meeting with us.
Absolutely.
It would be with
They'd
that
happy to.
working group, I think.
Yeah, with the working group, I think. So maybe 2 board members and myself, does that make sense?
That does make sense.
And the funds won't be released until it's reported back to the board, the status of that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the budget itself. Any other questions or comments on the budget?
No.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. And thank you again. All right.
You could at least stand up and give a standing
Resolution-
ovation.
Resolution number 5, considering setting a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 215-7 of the Village Code concerning street opening permits and restorations.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees shall hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 13th, on the proposed local law amending the village code regarding street opening permits and restorations.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved?
Second.
And again, this is just setting the public hearing. As far as I could tell from reading it, there's only a single change.
Yes,
To
it's just,
the, so a little background, please, and I'm not sure we have to call Michael up for this, but
No.
maybe we do.
the building inspector, under the code, the building inspector is supposed to issue permits for street openings, and we're just trying to clean up the village code, because it's actually the superintendent of public works that does the street opening permits, and it's in several sections of the village code. They'll call it really just clean up.
Any questions or comments from the board? Do we have a motion and second on setting the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. And again, there'll be more discussion, possibly not, at the public hearing. All right, resolution number 6, considering approving an MOU and 2025 extension electric service agreement to continue to participate in a community choice aggregation program managed by Sustainable Westchester.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook previously entered into an agreement with Sustainable Westchester for the Community Choice Aggregation Program, otherwise known as CCA, in Westchester County, and also known as Westchester Power, which allowed the village board to participate in a program with Sustainable Westchester to procure energy supply from energy service companies for residents of the village, and whereas Sustainable Westchester wishes to renew the program with the Village of Rybrook, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the Memorandum of Understanding in furtherance of the Rybrook's participation in the CCA program, and be it further resolved that Rybrook elects either the 100% or 50% renewable energy option for the CCA program, and be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute an energy services agreement in the form attached to the MOU, subject to further review and revision by the attorney, which authorizes Sustainable Westchester to accept bids for energy service so long as the minimum requirements set forth in the Memorandum of Understanding and Resolution dated March 6, 2025 are satisfied.
Thank you, Chris. And again, I'm going to hold off on any motion or second on this one until we have reached a choice of what it is that we want a motion and a second on. I know there are, a variety of opinions on this board. We did have Dan Welsh come to our previous meeting to give a presentation on the community choice, on CCA, the community choice aggregation. We have been a member of the CCA for quite some time now.
Oh, gosh, yeah, 16, they say? No, it can't be that far. 16
Can't be
or
that far
18?
back. maybe 18, I mean, a number of years. We've been a member of this for a number of years. The first time we entered into this agreement, we were not at the renewable option. We were one of the few that weren't. There are a number of other Westchester County municipalities that are part of this agreement. I think it was 29, something like
Yeah,
that.
originally, yeah.
You know, and
Now there's less. Yeah, some have dropped out of it, I think.
right. And, you know, again, you know, I have my personal opinions on this. I think, you know, our public, our residents have been part of this program if they have not opted out or gone to their own ESCO, which I guess is also opting out, or gone back to the Con Ed, the regular Con Ed provider, you know, service. And, you know, as was pointed out to us, a lot of our bill is really in the delivery charges, not necessarily in electric charges. But I want to open this up to discussion among the board. You know, obviously, I'll weigh in with my opinions on what I think, but happy to hear from everyone else.
Don?
For me, I'm bouncing back and forth between the two extremes of 100% or nothing. The reason I would go with 100% is if our residents care enough about the purposes of the green energy, I would favor giving them the maximum environmental impact that they can have. The reason I might go towards zero is because I feel as if a lot of our residents probably don't understand that they're not going to save any money, and a lot of our residents probably don't understand what it means to opt out or how to opt out. We can say that, oh, it's clear. It's not clear. And I think a lot of people basically, just through inertia, stay in.
Right, and that last point is very well taken, because I think while, you know, and it's actually not us that does the mailings about opting out. It has the Rybrook logo on it, but that actually comes from Sustainable Westchester. They're the ones
Yeah.
paying for that, and I've received the letters. There's a lot of wording in the letters. Let's just put it that way. So it's not something that's, you know, easily recognizable as this is an important decision for your household.
Yeah.
And I
that's
think
why
there are
say I'm-
ways that we could potentially get that information out more as a village.
I would favor that the village of Rybrook outline how to opt out, should the residents want to opt out.
Right, I would think that, I know that there's a lot of information. I know that you have something that's important to say. I can see you've done a lot
Oh,
of research
no,
on
no, no,
this.
that's, yeah.
But the opting out aspect, I think that you are right. The communication is not clear to most residents, and if they're green, then they want to stay in it. But we have forced them to be part of it because it was a good deal initially. I think it was a better program. I don't know if it's a program that we should force our residents into at this point.
Right.
So that's why the opt-out and the lack of communication, our whole website, we have to have something which makes it easier. So I'm really up in the air, I'll be honest with you.
Right, and you know, I mean, just so to one point, I mean, we're already part of this program. We've been a part of this program for a long time, so it's anyone who has not opted out would expect a continuation just of what's been there. You know, it has been generally a savings over other completely renewable ESCOs in that sense, but it certainly has not been a savings. And at the onset of this, you know, we walked into this thinking that our residents may be getting a deal, that this may be saving them some money because of the collective bargaining ability and the power of having that many municipalities and that many automatic customers behind it, that they would be able to negotiate for a better rate than potentially would be happening otherwise. And for some time it worked, for some time it didn't. You know, certainly our hope is that it would come back to working and potentially, you know, saving some money. And I guess time will tell. Dom?
Yeah, this is tough. I don't disagree with anything that's been said. I will say in favor of the program, they did mention that their intent was to bring Solarize back. And I participated in that 9 years ago. I think that's a model government program because it's educational, and it's about facilitating, helping people put solar panels on the roof. They give you information about how to tap into the subsidies, help pave the way on, that you realize your building department's going to be tuned in terms of permitting. They bid out, it's very difficult for people to conceptualize, putting solar panels on the roof, and the village or the program goes out to bid for people and picks the best solar contractor, because they're not all the same, and then explains the financing options, explains the tax incentives. I see, looking at the ARB agenda, there's a steady stream of people putting solar panels on the roof. Now, Solarize Rybrook was 9 years ago, yet I hold out that it's the best long-term savings. Now, I don't know what the economics are today, but I'm saving over $500 a year with the solar panels. I have 30 panels on my roof. I know a lot of you guys do as well. That is where I think the huge savings. I don't pay delivery for anybody, so I'm producing 120%. I'm not making this a personal thing, but I'm saying the potential is there. I don't have a huge roof. The potential is there to cut out all the transmission/delivery and create your own energy, and at a long-term savings. I think it's a great program. I'm okay with signing up with them and the full thing because of the opt-out, and I think I would not want to force this on somebody. In other words, the Sustainable Westchester, because it's going to be either half renewable or 100% renewable, my feeling is you are going to pay more. And I don't know what we can legally say, but I think the simplest thing is, if you're interested in saving money, we should tell people, opt out. We can't guarantee you're going to save money, but we should, and I don't know the legality of it, because it's not a guarantee, but
But you can opt back in, too.
yeah,
If things change.
I think we should really hammer people that for all you that are complaining about your energy bills, meaning gas, transmission, you don't even know how it's all broken down, we recommend opt out, And for those of you that are in, but I also think that sustainability is a very important element of our village. We have a whole committee, we only have like 5 or 6 active committees, and one of them is sustainability. Our residents care a lot about it, and what I found out is you can't opt in. If we don't set people up with this program, they can't opt in on their own, but they can opt out. So that sort of leads me to saying, that gives people options. If we don't do this, they can't opt in.
Right. And that's been one of my arguments, for a while, is that I'd prefer to have people have the options. And, you talk about the Sustainability Committee. I'm a former chair of the Sustainability Committee, and member. So, I'm not going to lose sight of the fact that today's Earth Day.
Right.
And, it's my belief that we really should be doing what we can environmentally. I also participated in the Solarize Rybrook program, and I found it to be extremely useful. And there were a number of projects that came out of that. I forget how many. It was
Yeah.
double digit. I know that.
Yeah, double digits, but not as many as we hoped, but
Right.
I think, to me, the biggest benefit of that program was not in the raw numbers, which we had, I think, under 20. It was the educational pieces of it.
Exactly.
We learned a lot about it, I can
Yes.
tell you that. But also, not only did we learn it, we were able to provide a lot of educational information that residents could either go with this program, or we didn't say, take this program. What we
Right.
said was, if you want, this is a negotiated program, and this is the benefits of it. But what we also tried to do is really educate on the different types of inverters, what to look for. So whether went with ours or another, it really didn't matter to us, as long as we have a more educated consumer on what can be very complicated. Because some will, whether you should be buying given the current incentives or leasing given the current incentives, those are all different choices and types of inverters, types of panels. So a lot of the educational pieces of it was just as important.
Yes, I agree,
Right,
100%.
Streamlining the process.
They don't have those incentives now, do they?
Some, it's
Some.
different.
Some,
Yeah.
and again, we would
panels are
see,
cheaper though,
we
too.
would,
Oh, that's true.
if the Solarized program were offered again, and if we were to be one of the communities selected to participate in it again, then we would see what comes of it.
And then,
and
and there
again,
used to be a
my-
little bit, few more options too. Like I participate at my house with, not on solar on my house, but I do where you buy your,
Community solar.
the community solar, where there was, I think my project that I was able to get a unit for was in Binghamton, where the developers do it. But unfortunately, there's not enough of those projects that are available for residents to sign up for, which is a straight 10% discount on your bill.
Right. And I
You
think,
know, available to anybody. You go to the
and I think
website.
if we, not anybody.
Any-
You can't do it if you already have solar on your.
If you have solar, you can't do it, yeah. But anybody, but you need the projects to be able to have the incentive.
And again, that's just one program offered by Sustainable Westchester. I think it is of very high value and was to our residents. Again, in terms of the CCA, my personal feeling is this is a way to get more people in Westchester and in Rybrook using 100% renewable energy. This is, it is a little bit of an added cost, but not a huge cost, because it's just, again, a few cents on the actual electricity you're purchasing, not on the delivery fees, not on
The supply.
everything else that goes into that bill. It's just on the electricity itself. Certainly not the gas, anything like that. It gives people the ability to opt out. It gives our residents choices. And again, in my opinion, it does something positive for the environment.
As I said, for me, I need a clearer delineation of exactly how somebody opts out. I don't trust Sustainable Westchester to do it because it's not in their best interest to have people opting out.
And
I
I
think
guess
it's
the
incumbent
question,
upon the village to make sure that all our residents are supplied with sufficient information, with sufficient clarity, that they understand what their rights are.
And we
And I
did do,
guess the
we did do
question
that the last
becomes-
contract. When we signed the last contract, at the same time that people were being put into the new program, that's when we sent an email, a blast, and put information on the site about, here's how you opt out if you want it.
right, and I think,
Yeah.
and I guess the question then becomes, can we do that email again? But also,
Mm-hmm.
can we get more information on our website
Yes.
explaining to people exactly what this is,
How
how
to-
to maybe even break down the numbers on their utility bill, and, showing how the rates compare to Con Ed, what that means for
Mm-hmm.
them.
But you see, I don't think the
And how to opt
website
out.
is sufficient. I think we have to do a mailing, because there are some people, one, who don't ever check our website. There are some people who don't use computers, but everybody gets mail. And that's my feeling, which is we've got to make it really clear and make them understand that if they're doing this for sustainability reasons, that's great. But don't stay in because you think you're going to save money.
Right, and maybe, you know what, our logo goes on the letter that goes out to our
Mm-hmm.
residents. Perhaps we can work with Sustainable Westchester and completely change the letter. It
We
goes
can
with-
ask, but I think it's pretty standard what you have to send out. I think we all have to
Maybe we
agree.
look at doing our own.
But I think there is, as Trustee Heiser said, different people look at it different ways, right? So some people want the mail, some people throw out their mail. I think that the website is important because that gives us a place to drive to. I'm not saying people are going to
No,
be
I'm not saying
randomly
it's not
going.
important.
But what we can do through social media, email blasts, drive people to that site to get the information they need. That could be done through regular mail, that could be done through email, it could be done through social media, and maybe it's hard to put all that into a mailer, because there's,
Too much
but
information.
but what you can do is give some of the basic information and then drive them to a particular location to get it.
Don, you will appreciate this. I view the opt-out as the first law of motion. A body of
Yeah,
rest
no,
will
no,
stay at
that's right.
rest unless acted upon
No,
by an
there's
outside.
economic studies on this for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and it's not that it's arduous, it's just that it is time-consuming.
Yes.
But it does,
And there's a lag if you want to opt in or out.
6 weeks at least.
Sustainable Westchester their presentation was quite good, but it's never going to really be simple. And I don't know legally whether we're going to be able to say, opt out if you want to save money, because it's not 100% guaranteed.
No, it's not.
No.
So people are then left confused. And I think that's where our concern is, right?
I
That
think having more information on our website, and Chris was mentioning that other municipalities have have dedicated
Yeah.
pages of their website that keep up-to-date information. And I think we need a commitment from staff to be able to look into those other websites.
Yes.
Create something for Rybrook that has information where people can look to see how their rates are doing comparatively.
Yeah.
Explain how to opt out, explain how to look at these numbers and understand.
and try to keep it simple. Just say, the last 3 years, you would have saved X amount of dollars if you're an average's house for whatever.
Yeah, like our neighboring community, what they do is they have a video, different ways of looking at it. You have a video to figure out how to understand how to opt out. You have, put it in words, they show it in a map, but they also show month by month for an average customer, and they define what that is. This is how much additional it cost you this month. And if you don't like this, here's how to opt out of it. And there's ways to look at that. And some months it's only $5, and some days it's going to be $40, So those are the type of things, but you have to lock one of the pieces in, which is, what is a standard customer? And then you figure it out from there.
Right.
Right.
So all of Westchester has an option of 50 or 100
Who's participating in the program?
if they're in the program.
And my guess would
They
be
have to
that-
pick one or the other, there's no double option.
No. And my guess would be that the overwhelming majority of the municipalities are going 100%.
Yeah, I think last time they all did.
Yeah, last time they all did.
Now, one thing that argues for this strategically is the Public Service Commission is pressing Con Ed very hard to increase their renewable they don't have a lot of renewable in their supply mix right now, which is shown on the Sustainable Westchester, but it's also in their little flyers that they send out with the bills. The Public Service Commission has a goal to increase the renewable very substantially over the next couple of years, which is probably going to increase costs for the people that opt out too,
Right.
if you opt out to Con Ed,
Right, so it's maybe a reason.
which is then kind of tied in with our rate case, because to get the renewable energy, they're building transmission lines. So it's sort of a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
So maybe the delta will actually go down as Con Ed is supplying more renewable. It's
Right.
also, a bunch of it's Canadian, which we have tariff issues, et cetera. So it's complicated.
Complicated.
It is absolutely a complicated issue, and again, just, this is, what's the length of this contract?
It was shorter than the last one. What was it? Yeah, it's a year.
Oh,
1
it's-
year?
it's a year.
It's only a year program. Yeah, and before that they did 2 or 3 years.
So I
Initially it
know,
was
so
3. I think,
personally,
first
I'm in
year.
favor of going for the 100% renewable. I don't know where anyone else stands. I can't make a motion.
Oh, you can't?
No.
As I say, I would, I was torn between 100 and 0, so if we're going to sign a contract, I would go with 100%, but I want to make sure that the opt-out provisions are made clear to our residents.
Right, I think that what the residents don't see is that Chris worked hard at getting us some information from another municipality, and that's very helpful information. And I think that if we provide this to our residents in a similar fashion, and I think
Be helpful.
it's not going to be that hard to do.
Pretty straightforward for the most part. Just got to figure out the rates part
Right, exactly, so.
with the sources.
Right, so, and I think that, Don, you brought out some interesting information with regard to Con Edison and how they're going to have to go a little more green, so their pricing is also going to increase, so.
Over the longer term, but yeah.
Right,
So-
over the long term,
Slightly,
of course, of course. So I think providing an option is good, but given that we have to have more information, I think if we have both of those, I would be willing to do 100, but given the fact that I think 2,300 of our residents, is that what the number was?
We're still in this.
Are still in this. So please be mindful of your choices. You have control over it. We elected to do an opt-in, but you can easily opt out. So there'll be more information forthcoming, but I'd be okay with.
And I think if lots and lots of our residents want to stay in this program, regardless of whether they're saving money or not, that's great.
Right, exactly.
And that also kind of, I mean, I guess I don't look at it as a mandate that 2,300 are still in it, so they want us to stay in this.
No, I think it's
Because I think
inertia.
there may not be, and a lot of people, I think a large number of those people are aware of the program and have stayed in it. But certainly as time goes on, the more information we can provide, the better. And if we see that people really are still staying in it, then we do know that
Well, I
this
was
is
gonna
something
say,
that is
if-
desired by our
If
residents.
we provide sufficient information concerning how to opt out and people still choose to stay in, then we get a much better sentiment as to how our residents feel about this.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, it's like,
Yeah.
maybe they stay in because they have no idea how else they can do anything.
And also, I know that people are interested in solar, perhaps another educational, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So if they're providing information for our residents, I'd like them to do that on solar and how they can adapt it to their own use.
Yeah, perhaps we could push them, even if it's not the true solarize, with all the bells and whistles. Like you said, the educational component. Like, if you're going out to bid yourself, here's the thing, tips and tricks, here's
Yeah,
things
here's
to
some
look
things
for.
to look
Yeah.
at, yeah.
So perhaps we should ask them to communicate that also as part of, this is their.
Their
their-
Sustainable Westchester
All
program.
right, so
Exactly.
in regards to this, it kind of sounds like we've reached consensus. Do we have a motion for one of the three options laid out before? Again, the options are withdraw from the program, stay with the program at 50% or 100%.
It sounds like, I would make a motion, join the program, stay in the program at 100% renewable, with the caveat that we double down on communicating as best as possible, as clearly as possible, about the opt-out options and why it would benefit you to opt out, and why it would benefit you to stay in,
I was going to say, it's-
Right, and
It
if
could go
yeah.
both ways.
Go
right.
both ways.
I think
Okay,
that's
do we have a second?
second.
second.
Can I just make sure I'm really clear on one thing? Since this is, we're going to leave the resolution as is, just at the 100%, but the minutes will reflect the board's statement to the staff to make sure that we communicate. Is that okay?
Yes.
That's fine.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. And we appreciate Sustainable Westchester's presentations to us. I certainly appreciate this conversation that we have here. I think these are not easy decisions that truly do affect our residents. And, and there's no, unfortunately, there's no great answer, but it's, but I think we have to continue to look at this on a year-to-year basis and see what it's doing. And there may come a time when we say, enough's enough, but.
Right, because this is only 1 year, right? We're going to know a lot more after the Con Ed rate case intervention and the
We'll
whole
know more
thing.
about-
I don't know how
yeah.
long that rate case is going to go.
11 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
So
know
we'll
more.
know more even next month after the,
Because they're
after
gonna
the
look-
bids come back.
We're going to, right.
And
we're gonna-
after the
yeah.
bids come back, we'll know even more.
Right, right.
All right.
Do they have the rates for this year? That's my other question.
No, this is, they have to get the agreements from the
Right, of
municipalities.
course, so we don't even know the rates yet, so we may have
No.
another conversation
That's what makes
discussing
the
this
communication
going
hard.
forward, exactly.
Yeah,
So
this is why this is
when
difficult.
is that November?
Next month.
Next month.
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, so I
That's when
think-
they're- Because they wanted to leave ample time before, I think it goes into effect potentially in November.
I'm sorry, I was talking over.
No, it may, when it goes into effect and when they're getting the rates. So they're going to bid on the rates now so that they have time to adjust should they need to, because if you remember, we had that one time where the bids came in crazy and there was no time to adjust and then there was no program.
And the
Because
rates.
they hadn't met their own targets.
The
their
rates
own
change so frequently, it's got to be a very tight time frame from when they have the commitments from the municipalities to participate to when they have to sign the agreements is extremely tight. That's
Right.
what they're always working against.
Right.
All right, so moving on, resolution number 7, considering agreements between the Village of Rybrook and INF Associates for the installation of electric vehicle chargers at Village Hall and the Garibaldi parking lot.
Okay? Whereas Westchester County is coordinating the installation of ChargePoint Level 2 electric vehicle chargers available to the public on municipal properties through an award contract. It says Sourcewell, but it's actually a Westchester County contract. And whereas INF Associates is a turnkey energy solutions company that is coordinating the scope of work for the installation of these chargers with municipalities in the county, and whereas INF has submitted an electric vehicle charging proposal for 4 dual-port charging stations, 8 ports total at Village Hall parking lot at 938 King Street, and also has dual-port charging stations, 4 points total at the Garibaldi Park municipal lot off Garibaldi Place. And whereas due to various incentives, rebates, tax credits, and grants available, the result is no cost to the participating municipality for the installation of the chargers recommended in the proposals. And whereas the board would be able to determine any fees for the public use of these chargers, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposed agreements with INF for the installation of ChargePoint Level 2 electric chargers at Village Hall parking lot, 938 King Street, and Garibaldi Park municipal lot off Garibaldi Place, subject to modification by council. And be it further resolved that the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any applications or documents that are necessary or appropriate to enact the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And Chris, can you say that again? How much will this cost the municipality, the Village of Rybrook?
They're anticipating there's going to be no cost to the village due to the county rebates and the Con Ed incentives. So let me kind of walk through that if you don't mind.
Please.
So, yeah, this is something, if the board remembers, we had a presentation and discussed this, oh gosh, a year and a half ago? And there was a problem between the county and the Public Service Commission about the type of chargers they were proposing and the software that was involved in it. And long story short, the original designs and the original agreements had to be modified to reflect the new chargers that they're using and the new incentives that are there, and that's why it's back before you. So it's still the same locations, it's the same number of ports, it's the same level chargers. It's a different model that has the software that is more consistent with what the Public Service Commission wants. We do have to advance the money in the beginning under the agreement, so just be aware of that, but then we get reimbursed through the program later on. So we have to put out the money with INF, and then there's a reimbursement back again. The county, what's made this program a little bit different than most, and as far as I know, most of the communities now in Westchester have all signed up for this program, simply because it's no cost, and the county did a lot of the legwork for this program, and the county itself is providing some of the rebates back to municipalities. And that makes this a little bit unusual.
All right, Chris, I know there are some concerns on the village board about the loss of parking spaces at Village Hall.
Yeah, these aren't dedicated only for EV, electric vehicles. They could be used by either people with electric vehicles or not having electric vehicles. But we do have to make them available to the public.
So they're available to the public, but they are not
Exclusive to EVs.
exclusive use.
So the parking spaces will still be available.
Correct. Whoever's there first, just like it is
In other
now.
words,
Right, so if we have a meeting that has a lot of public attendees,
And the space is available,
Which does
you don't have an
happen.
EV, you can still park there. So, yeah.
So we're really only losing parking spaces if somebody's using the charger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my other question is, there are fees ongoing for several years having to do with the warranty and the maintenance. So those are
Yes,
fees
those would be on us eventually on maintenance. Yep. So we,
eventually immediately.
yeah, well, what you're getting here, if the board wants it, is the infrastructure cost paid for. Which is the most expensive piece.
Yes, I understand that. I know it's de minimis by comparison, and we're providing something, but we're going to be charging something that will pay for this kind of maintenance and warranty?
I don't know if it'll be a wash or not. I couldn't tell you that, because it depends on what the board wants to charge also. The board will be able to set the fee for the use of the charger.
Well, I would absolutely want to at least cover what I'm,
Yeah, I just don't know without having any history on it yet. I don't know.
they haven't done
what
any pro formas?
No. This is a program that has not been managed by the village, it's been managed through the county.
And nobody has it installed yet?
No, they haven't ordered them, they haven't financed them yet, nope.
Do we know of other municipalities that have installed the older ones and what the maintenance and
I
those
could
things
find
are?
that, I could find that out.
Sure, that would be
Sure.
probably some
Town of
sort
Rye
of,
has installed
Yeah.
chargers.
what?
Town of Rye. has
Exactly.
chargers.
They were, originally they were free, and then
Yeah,
they started charging for them.
$2.
Yeah, after a couple of years,
Right,
a year
so
or
I
two.
mean, that's my concern. In other words, I know that nothing is free.
No.
Right.
I guess from our perspective, from when we talked about this last with the board, was the biggest cost here is laying the infrastructure, and if we believe there's going to be more EVs in the future, we got to start laying that infrastructure down. If we can get it 100% paid for,
All the better.
we're a step
I
ahead.
agree, I agree, but I guess I just want to
Yep. Know what we're getting into.
bring those,
Will these chargers be usable by any electric car?
Yes.
I think they're all,
adapters.
they have to use a
They're
certain
standard.
port
I
now.
don't know.
I don't have one.
Neither do I, sir.
Yeah.
And this company has scoped out the actual locations and knows how
That was a
much it can bring, the
With the-
foundation for
with
the
village.
charger and all that.
With the
Yeah.
village, they did
Okay.
that. So this is something we did like a year and a half ago with the board too. So we talked about locations where we wanted to put them. We cost out various locations. We looked at other locations as well, Pine Ridge Park and other ones. And this is where we said, well, let's start with these kind of key locations, which was, obviously Village Hall and Garibaldi Park, because we have the park, you have AJP, you have a lot right there.
But we've sort of reviewed the engineering to say, yeah, this
Yes.
spot makes sense.
Yes.
Electric cable can get
Where
there.
they go in the
And
lot,
part
we
of
picked where they go in the
and
lot.
Part of why, so Pine Ridge wasn't selected,
Hmm.
even though it's a well-used park, was because of that, because of looking
Okay.
at that you would have had to run the power line from the road
Greater
all the
distance.
way down the driveway there to the parking spots there,
Yeah.
or you would have had to have it right on street parking.
So we would have to
Yeah.
create, a little off-street parking lot almost for
Okay.
it.
Well, that makes me feel
Or the
better, yeah.
cost was too expensive to run it, as the mayor said, all the way into where it would have needed to get to the
It wasn't
parking lot.
a great
Yeah.
location.
Okay.
And,
So-
and we also had looked at, one of the options at the time, and it was not an option now, I don't think, was of the faster chargers,
We did look at
which is
that.
more expensive. But then we were concerned that, people would be coming off the hutch
Yeah.
and using that to just charge up
Yeah.
before heading on their way. This is more, a trickle charge.
And it was more the norm of what people were doing, these
If you're
types
here
of
for a
chargers.
meeting, if you're here doing some
But-
business, if you're at Garibaldi to play tennis, or, no, sorry, tennis, pickle for a
Pickleball.
while, you have the ability to do this.
I
And
also-
again, it's free to us to lay the
Yeah.
Where's the Garibaldi one? Because I just
I
tried
was
to
just
find
gonna
in the
say-
it.
corner.
I think it's very appropriate that we also have one in the southern end of the village.
Yeah, yeah.
If we had done it at Pine Ridge, both of them would be in the northern end
Yeah.
of the village, and we'd basically be saying to the southern end of the village, good luck.
Yeah, no, and we looked at each one of them to see if they were viable.
That-
Even in
that
Village
happened
Hall
on
parking
here.
lot, if you look, we kind of tried to split the chargers into the areas that we always leave open for the public, and also
yeah.
where the staff
The different views.
typically parts, so you kind of balance each one out. Not that either one is restricted, but that's kind of how we operate.
And someday we might have our own electric vehicles.
That's right.
We can hope.
We can hope.
We already
We
have
have one, we do have one.
Okay.
And
all
then
right,
the
good.
charger, and we have the charger in the back, but that's not open to the public.
That's not public, right? All right, any other questions or comments?
Oh, excellent.
can
I
I
know
just
this has
add
been
one
a
thing
long
to this?
time. Yes.
Just one thing, just to clarify, the MI3 applications that are in the PDFs, that's separate. So that I submitted to INF. So that goes to the county, because the county needs that in order to get the municipal commitment, so that they can go out for bonds for the IMA. So that's what we're waiting on. But in conversations with INF, that the county's still waiting for more municipal MI3 applications to come in before they go out for bonds. So once they get more of those, then we can expect to see some more movement on the IMA agreement that the county will issue. And that's a separate agreement that we'll enter in with them.
County needs it in the aggregate because they go out for one bond.
Right.
When do we expect this to,
A year and a half ago?
I'm saying, so I see that it's moving forward now, so I'm hoping that we're at the
It's a
tail
common
end.
conversation of frustration among municipalities all across the county.
Got it.
The honest answer is it's on us, the municipalities
Yeah,
now.
now it
because,
is.
Because now it's on all the municipalities to really kind of get the ball rolling with the MI3 applications, because the county's not going to go out for a bond, understandably so, until they get all the commitments that they're expecting.
Well, where it got stuck was between the county and the Public Service Commission, because the original charger didn't meet the updated standards, And then the county tried to get a waiver of those standards. It got delay after delay after delay. Yeah.
And here we are again.
And had to go out to bid again. Yeah, and then they had to go out to bid again for a different type of charger. And the company that already laid of money up front, INF, in the infrastructure, so there was risk that they had the risk that they wouldn't be the low bidder, but I guess they turned out to be the low bidder again. That's the longer story.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution number 8, considering awarding contract 2504, streetlight maintenance and associated work.
Whereas Rybrook solicited bids for contract 2504, streetlight maintenance and associated work, and whereas the bid for that contract was advertised in Journal News as the official newspaper. That reads odd, doesn't it?
It
After all those
does,
years.
it does, after all these years, it does.
And whereas at 2 p.m. on Monday, April 16th, all bids were received, were opened and summarized below. And there's a total bid of $86,607.93 from Nix Electric, plus there was an alternate A and an alternate B at $91.91. Now therefore be resolved that after review of the bids by the Administrator and Superintendent of Public Works, the Board of Trustees have determined the lowest bidder meeting the requirements is Nix Electric for the base bid amount of $86,607.93, and alternates A and B, and be it further resolved, the Mayor and Administrator are authorized to execute and deliver all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the purposes of this resolution. And be it further resolved that rather than approving the renewal annually, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the extension to the maintenance bid for the remaining 3 or 4 years of the contract at the same 4 years of the contract at the same unit prices and conditions of the original contract to Nix Electric, subject to their continued performance of satisfactory services.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Chris, a little background on this, what it's used for, but also the extension.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to ask Michael, who prepared the bid, to come up, maybe help me out a little bit, but basically, this is work that we have to do for maintenance of our streetlights and they were the only bidder, it looks like, on this particular bid. And let's see, the extension is we just try to provide, if we lock in the prices as best we can for future years, provided they do a satisfactory job. But Michael, you have anything else you want to add?
No, we've been working with Nix Electric for probably the last 4 to 6 years. We've had great results with them. They're very responsive. Other municipalities have been using them, and look forward to working with them. We've been doing multi-year bids to help out instead of having bids every year. You know, obviously expending these staff time and labor in doing bids and advertising. We extended it to 5 years, which we're legally allowed max by law. Here we are.
What kind of maintenance does he do?
So Nix Electric in this contract does a multitude of things. They handle the street lights. They handle our electrical infrastructure. They'll do electrical work within our buildings. So there's new work which they're able to do under the bid. There's existing repair work that they're able to do under the bid. So it covers not just the street lights, it covers all our buildings as well.
Oh.
So it's a multitude of things that they could do. So if we need a new light replaced here in the offices or boardroom, I'm able to get them in here and to do it.
So just realize, every time, sounds great, why don't we just call it electric company? Everything we do is prevailing wage. So just even if it doesn't matter the cost of the job. If it's a $2,000 job of electric work, you need to go out, and a lot of contractors don't want to give you pricing for a prevailing wage. So by putting it into a bid and getting bulk, they're going to basically have guaranteed service from us for electric for a period of time. That makes it worthwhile for people to kind of express interest and be interested in providing the work for us. But when you just need a small job, that's the hardest thing to get pricing on. Nobody wants to do it, then you won't get paid until you provide your certified payrolls and everything else, so it becomes very tedious for the contractors, tedious for us. So if you have an existing contract, it makes it a lot easier.
Great.
Were we surprised we only got one bid, or they're just so competitive at this point?
It's not a service that many companies get into, because you need a bucket
Bucket
truck,
truck.
you need the training, you need the certifications.
Okay.
Not a lot of people want to get involved with
Traffic
prevailing wage,
management.
traffic maintenance. So it's a multitude of things. There's only probably one other vendor, which is very well known in the county, who does this kind of work, but they got their hands full with all their contractor work. So I'm not surprised there was only one. I would have expected one more from out of state, but they're much higher.
So you were happy with the pricing, even though there was only one, obviously, yeah.
Any other questions on this contract? As long as you're up here. I have a question about other bidding. I know and I don't know how it would affect us. I know the county just signed an executive order changing, the lowest responsible bidder.
Saw that.
Does this, we don't have any large projects right now in the hopper, but
I was trying to figure out how they did that, how they were going to do that with the state requirements. But yeah, that's something I want to look into as well when I saw that.
yeah, I'm just curious how that
We
affects
need
us.
to get legal counsel to review
Yeah.
that, because there are some conflicting
Right.
points of view.
I saw that message today too. That notice
Oh,
from
I thought
Ken.
it was last week.
It was Ken's update. Ken
Oh,
Jenkins'
yeah,
update.
yeah, but it was, I read about it last week,
Yeah.
so. Okay. Something, all right.
With our contract expert, I can't.
Yeah. Any other
was curious
questions or
as well.
comments on this?
Basically, the county provided a new law that provided them more flexibility in how they
lowest
bid
Yeah,
out and
yes,
getting
yes.
and determining lowest responsible
Yeah.
bidder.
And making sure that they're actually
Yeah.
responsible. Yeah.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 9, and thank you, Michael. Resolution number 9, considering accepting a sponsorship donation from the Bailiwick Club for an ice cream social event.
Whereas the Bailiwick Club wishes to provide the Village of Rybrook with sponsorship donation in the amount of $500 to sponsor an ice cream social event, and whereas the Village of Rybrook is interested in accepting the sponsorship donation, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees, acting as the Board of Directors of the Friends of Rybrook, hereby accepts the sponsorship donation in the amount of $500 to the Village of Rybrook to sponsor an ice cream social event. And be it further resolved, the Mayor and Administrator are authorized to sign any documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Chris?
Sure,
It
this
seems
is-
like is it an interesting one that,
So, we're approached through, it's okay to say, Trustee
Sure,
Epstein,
of course.
who was contacted, or either she contacted or was contacted by Bailiwick Club, but they had a conversation where they wanted to, a lot of Rybrook residents apparently go to this particular club, and they wanted to let people know about what they do and to encourage, and sponsor a Rybrook community event. So they asked what was available, and the suggestion at the end of the day was to sponsor an ice cream social event, something that we've done, we think we do a good job with those events. We get nice turnouts. So we're looking to have an event on May 16th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. That date was picked in coordination with them. And so it would be a nice event. And obviously, they would have a table as well, and, recognized as a donor to sponsor this particular event.
as a quick, do we have donors for the other one? Is there,
Sometimes we have donations, yeah, sure. A lot of the, sometimes it's more unions will donate. We've had unions donate sponsor our ice cream socials, stuff like that.
Okay.
We certainly get donations for other types of events, so, and we always,
Right, it
and
just
we
seems-
recognize them as, and it is, I think the person who came to us was from Rybrook, too, from the
Okay.
club.
There are a tremendous amount of members of Bailiwick that are Rybrook residents.
right, it just, to me, it seems strange that, it wouldn't be for one of the existing ice cream Fridays that we do anyway. It seems, to add one on, I have to imagine, they're all at a cost to us, but I have to imagine there's more than $500 cost to us. So.
There's not much money to us. It's covers our costs. Rather, some of those employees are free.
The OT and,
Some of those employees are free.
okay, got it. Got it. Right, so, all right.
So not all of them,
It's-
but some of
it's-
them are.
I just.
The ice cream's
My
a
only
minor cost,
concern
so.
was just, setting precedent of, are we gonna end up having to crowd up a schedule because we're getting donations from a lot of different groups that wanna just.
No, that's something
Yeah,
that the board should consider, for sure.
Jason, we should be so lucky.
I know.
I believe, I believe the time of the year was selected so that it was prior to the summer. Most of our events are during the summer.
They need members for the summer, yeah.
Correct.
Exactly, and when I did call Chris about this, I said, is this something that we would be interested in?
I said, getting people together in the community, why not?
Exactly, it's a community event, and why not?
I read their history. It's a really interesting history about being very open. They were formed evidently because there are a lot of clubs had a lot of exclusions for various things, and their whole point was not to be exclusionary, try to keep their. I don't want to make a pitch for them. I'm just telling you what I read. But it seemed like it would be something that a village could accept a donation for. It's not something exclusionary.
Right, and I should say, if my information is correct from someone else, you could then you could go to the ice cream social event on the 16th, and then walk it off at the fit event on the
Exactly.
That's so funny.
which I'm sure Chris will mention during his.
Yes.
administration.
I was going to do it next year on that one, but.
And next meeting.
The irony was not lost on me when we were picking dates for this.
Right.
But the truth is, just so everybody knows, it's for anybody. It's any age, just like our ice cream socials are.
It's open to the
Anyone
public.
can go, even if they don't want to be interested in going, they want to hear about it. This
Yep.
is a
It's a
Rybrook
soft,
event.
this is not a hard pitch anyway. This is just, there's a
Exactly.
table there.
Well, you walk up to.
It's a table you walk up
Exactly.
to.
It's an ice
Exactly.
cream- And, right, and it's a normal, it's basically the same as what we would do on our ice cream Fridays that we
Correct.
typically.
Or
do
other
in
events
July.
when we list the sponsors.
Right, so if anyone, and I'm assuming this will be held at Pine Ridge.
Yep.
As usual.
Normal time, 6 to 7:30.
If anyone wants free ice cream on May 16th from 6 to 7:30, I'm sure I will be there scooping for a bit of it. I'm sure Chris will be scooping for a bit of it.
Yep.
I'm sure Greg will be scooping for a bit of it. So.
As we said, free,
Greg will
no
not be
overtime
eating
labor.
any of it. But you forgot to say Greg will not be eating any of it.
No, he will not be.
I don't know.
I-
He's a healthy man.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments on this? And again, we're accepting this as the board of the Friends of Rybrook.
Right, correct.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Trustee Epstein,
Yes.
Trustee Heiser,
Yes, thank you.
Trustee Crom,
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 10, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on February 25th, 2025.
Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on February 25th, 2025.
Thank you. Chris, can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none. Administrator's report.
Just have a-
It's an add-on resolution.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
that I
I'm
see.
not showing that on mine.
Probably have to refresh.
Beauty
Probably
show?
because I haven't reloaded my page.
Beauty show filming?
I've
Yeah.
just been, give me 1 minute here, let's see. I'm still not showing that on.
Probably have to log out and log back in. You want me to read it?
Probably what it is, please do. Resolution
This
number-
came up, this came
Well,
up
I don't
today.
use paper.
This item came up today, so sorry for the late add-on, but considering waiving restricted hours for the 20th Television Beauty television show filming. Whereas the village code outlines the permissible hours of filming, indicating that filming can only take place Monday through Thursday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., and whereas an application for 20th Television Beauty television show for interior and exterior filming utilizing 800 Westchester Avenue on April 30th, on Wednesday, April 30th through Thursday, May 1st, from 4 p.m. to 5 a.m., and whereas they requested that permissible hours of operation be extended to allow filming and associated operations on the dates listed on the application to accommodate their production needs, and whereas the code provides that the board may waive certain provisions of the filming code at their discretion, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees
Wow.
waives the filming restrictions with respect to hours of operation by allowing filming and related activities from Wednesday, April 30th through Thursday, May 1st, from 4 p.m. to 5 a.m., and that the village clerk is authorized to sign and execute all documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Do we know whether this is indoor filming or outdoor filming?
Yeah.
All right, so indoor filming typically would not have, and it's 800 Westchester Ave, so
It's off,
typically
it's off the road.
it's off the road.
Mostly
it's
indoor,
typically
interior,
not
yeah.
near our residents there.
And it looks like they're also parking on 705 Westchester Avenue, which is his property also.
My daughter works for a sister company. Can I vote? Am I conflicted or no?
That's
No. You're waiving the time frame.
Okay.
That's all.
Right. That's true, and I think we would be, I think it's gonna be unanimous anyway, so I don't think, I mean, if it made you feel better and you wanted to recuse yourself,
yeah.
you
No, I don't think so.
absolutely could, because I think we have enough yes votes, but.
I'm insignificant to this company, I'm very sure.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Crom?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Now administrator's report.
Okay, this Friday, we have our Arbor Day ceremony. That takes place Friday, April 25th at 9 a.m. at Beechwood Circle, so right where Beechwood and Woodland and Edgewood, they all meet together at the circle, so we'll be planting a tree in the circle at 9 a.m. That's always it's a very brief ceremony, but always a nice event where we get to plant a tree every year. We're going to have some giveaways this year a little bit with some red maple seedlings, bare root seedlings that people can take home and plant at their homes as well. And it's a nice opportunity to get out, and hopefully the weather will be beautiful. May 3rd is going to be a seed swap from 10 a.m. to noon at the Portchester Rybrook Library. That's sponsored by the library and the Portchester Sustainability Committee, as well as the Rybrook Sustainability Committee. And it's always a nice event. Also on the same day, on May 3rd, we're going to be planting and doing a planting project at AJP. That's from 9 to 11 a.m. The public's invited to that as well, so there's a little bit of overlap, and which we typically do as well. And Greg Rivera usually tries to make a stop at both events if he's able to, and represent the village as well as the sustainability committee when they come out. What's that? You'll be at all three, yes. Let's see. We're going to be issuing the RFP, the request for proposals for that joint traffic study with the Portchester School District. So we're going to go out and see what it would cost to do a traffic study of the village and the school district working together around the Portchester Middle School with an alternate for the high school. That's something we talked about with the school district in the past. School district, we had approved the resolution into last year. School district approved it right around the turn of the year, and we're just going to send that RFP out and see what we get back, and there'll be a joint project to see us work together to see if we can make traffic, parking, or pedestrian improvements either within the village properties or the county properties in this case, and the school district properties, and kind of thinking out of the box a little bit, various ways of working together. Crawford. Town of Rye, also on May 3rd, is Crawford Park. It's not a village or town event, but it does. I know the community gets excited about it. It's a really nice event. That's the Color Blast 2025. I know Greg Rivera's gone in the past, the mayor's gone in the past, and others. It's a nice event. It's a fundraiser for pancreatic cancer research. It's a fun event where there's color sprayed everywhere, I guess, Greg. And it's a lot of fun, everybody says, so
And
Uh,
just wanted to mention.
this is on May 3rd?
That's on Crawford Park, May 3rd, and that's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to send all this stuff out to the community as well through email blast, all these events that are coming up. The 50 Rockridge Drive was purchased by the village last week as part of the NRCS program, so there was a closing on that particular property. And that's 7 out of the 8 properties we're purchasing. The 8th and last property will be scheduled right now for May 15th. So that'll be the end of the properties that we're purchasing. We're waiting now. We have the design for the removal of the homes being completed. It's a process we go through with the consultant, and then it has to be approved by the NRCS. So Mike Nowak has been working with the contractor and the NRCS to get them to approve and be so we could go out to bid for the removal of all the homes that have been purchased. And, that involves, obviously, they've been out testing all the homes, doing all the inspections, preparing the design for the removal, preparing the restoration of the properties and so forth, that's pretty much passive. So that's moving along well. And then I think, as the mayor said, I think Rybrook Fit is May 17th, right, Trustee Epstein? Right?
The Fit Walk.
Yes.
The Fit
Rybrook
Walk,
Fit.
Rybrook Fit is on May 17th, and so we're looking forward to that. And really, the events start picking really up fast and furious, starting in May and going on forward right through the up until August, pretty much. And there's a little bit of an August break, and then we kind of pick it up again in September.
And I have 4, if I can interject.
please.
I have 4 concerts planned. We have 2 set in stone for dates. I sent something on to somebody today, so the information will be sent to you.
Great,
And we'll be able to make a flyer, we hope, this year.
fantastic. Con Ed, and that's all I have for tonight. Con Ed, we've asked to be put off to the next meeting.
All right, and I would assume the Eagle Scout as well.
Well, Greg can give an update on that if it's right. He's been working with the scout. We didn't want to have him wait to the end of the meeting, and we knew he had other items too.
Good evening. Yes, I'll just give a brief overview about the project and first how it came to be. So one of our sustainability committee members, his name is Ray Callahan, lives in Rybrook on Charles Lane, though he goes to Rye Country Day. So he approached us with a project idea to also kind of revitalize the butterfly garden out there. It's something that I've done with the sustainability committee, but to be honest, it is a huge endeavor to do so, because it's something that's got to be done year after year to put in fresh plants, and then it's our highway personnel have to be able to maintain it.
And explain where the butterfly garden is for those that don't know.
Yes, so it is the circle right out in front in our parking lot. So that was created by my predecessor, Alex Marshall. Again, I've tried my best to maintain it. Yes, so Mr. Cow came with a project idea and proposal, and we were very lucky to get support from the Teamsters Local 456, which is the union that represents our highway and parks staff. So they gave us a very generous donation to Mr. Ray Cow for him to complete his project. But basically, just to really kind of sum it up, is that he, in his proposal, listed some native plants that he'll get from the vendor of his choice that he'll put in there. And he did also, in his proposal, mention maybe a wooden butterfly house as well as a tree walkway, but for now it's only to stick to the plants, and we'll see how those other ideas matriculate once we get at least the plants in place. So once we get the donation from the union, then we'll potentially coordinate dates to get that project underway.
Which will involve other scout members as well.
Yes.
And doesn't the donation goes to the scout?
Yes,
Yes.
not to us, yeah.
Not to us.
Yes, it will be here, but he'll be dropping it off here, but we'll make sure it gets to the scout. But yes, it's not going to us directly.
Right.
But it's definitely something we're very excited about, especially me personally as an Eagle Scout myself. It's something that I'm very glad that he came and approached us about.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great.
And then, under new business, that was under new business, under discussion items, the Con Ed's being put off. We have one other discussion item, which is a referral to the Technology and Communications Committee. So, we would like them to, I don't know if you want to start, we would like, our Technology and Communications Committee has not been as active recently as they have been in the past. We have discussed a lot of different things that we'd like more community outreach about. Certainly, part of this is precipitated from the loss of the Westmore News and the desire of this board to work with our committees to try and find ways to get more information out to the public. From what's happening in the village and beyond. So I think we'd like to make a referral, which we often do from this board, is we make referrals if it's on a project. Often we refer to planning board, but we've also, even with the leaf blower law legislation when it was first created, we referred to the sustainability committee to help come up with the guidelines for that. So with this, we're looking to reactivate the Technology and Communications Committee and refer to them about community outreach. So, I mean, I don't know what anyone wants to add here. Obviously, there's,
If I could just add briefly, I think the loss of Westmore News has been pretty hard to get, makes it much harder to get communication out. And, we have a small staff, but we have a lot of different areas we try to outreach on, but we're never sure if it's the most effective for reaching the residents, because obviously we want to get the information in the hands of the residents the way residents would like to receive it. And I think there's probably different ways of doing that, we have so much talent in the community that, I think that it would be great to hear from the community, maybe developing, I was just writing my notes, a communication and outreach plan on how we can do, go to the next level to say, we don't have a local newspaper, so what's the best way or coming up with a multi-level plan that we can reach out to the community and make sure that they're getting good information about the village, things they need to know, things we want them to know in terms of events and other areas as well. But developing a communications and outreach plan so that the residents are informed, that's what we really want more than anything. And so that in the best manner that this committee could recommend that we reach out to them.
So you're saying you want to reboot the technology?
reboot, restart? What are you supposed to do when it
Reboot.
stops
I like
working?
reboot.
Technology, you reboot, right?
That's right, I like that.
Yeah,
Or I
we're doing
give,
that.
excuse me, or just plug in the power.
Give it a charge.
Give it a charge.
We're getting very snappy here.
Yeah.
But I think also, the solutions don't have to be technological in nature, right? To the extent we could get some communications professionals on the committee, or if we're giving them a directive, it's to think as far and wide as they want, and
Absolutely.
to taking into account, 20% of our population is seniors, 20% is children, et cetera, but.
Absolutely, I would agree with you. I think there's a lot of ways to do it, and it doesn't always involve technology. I know an elected official in another Westchester community, a big city-type community, where they meet with just neighborhood groups once a month as an official. And
Exactly.
just to get feedback, and sometimes they say you get 50 people, and some people get 2, but that's okay, and whatever it is. I'm just saying is, they're not all technology. There might be other ways to reach out and say, and divide that out and among the board members or whatever needs to be done, and say, hey, how do we reach out to you? How do we hear from you? And how do we communicate to you?
Right.
Are you talking to me directly? Because the last time I did that, I got 5 people.
I'm saying.
And it doesn't mean
there's
I'm not
ways,
willing
but
to
there's
do it
ways
again.
to do it and spread it out among the whole board or with staff.
Right.
Or with staff.
Right. Or around 30% of our residents live in HOAs that have their own communication networks, right? And most of them have boards,
Yep.
and we can maybe piggyback, sometimes, not all the time, right?
Yeah. And that's what I mean, is that we have technology areas, and we have other areas that don't involve that, We did this a number of years ago when we said, you have to go sometimes where people are meeting, it might be going to Starbucks on a Saturday morning, and we've done that too in the past
Yeah.
to try to get feedback. Go to a Starbucks. We went to Lenny's Bagels once and said, and said, hey, we're here, come in, stop by, talk a little bit, find out what's bothering you or what we could share.
Yeah.
I mean, and then other things are technology. We've done the John Mungo, what's that? Yeah, Rybrook Focus, where we do the videos and meet staff, meet members of the officials. There's all different ways of doing it. The question is, and it might be multiple things that you need to do, because I
Right.
think people get their news in different ways.
Right, I think I'm going to jump in here also, because we do have those HOAs, and if we can contact them also, to perhaps put them on a subcommittee for communications, they have access to all of their people. And I think we should move forward on that prior, because I know that I want those lists for the fit and the music. So if we can get that going, that would be terrific, Greg.
Yeah, a lot of
Like
times
Mr. Mast was here tonight, for instance,
Yeah,
and he has
and a lot of
access.
times what they want us to do is go through them, like give
Right, go through them,
give it the
yeah.
contact, and they distribute it to their member group.
Right.
They don't want to give you all the direct.
No,
Right.
And that's fine, as long as we get to the right contact to get it out.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But we're looking for a way to also reach out to all of the residents. I don't necessarily want my information filtered.
No, I'm just saying is, they won't always give you their list, is what I'm
Right,
just
right.
saying. Yeah.
I don't think they will, yeah.
Don't think they will?
Well, there's a privacy issue there, right? Like it's, yeah.
They're signing up to get news about their development, not,
Okay,
Right.
so then
Yeah.
I actually have one question, and that is, since the town is the assessor, don't they have everybody's emails? Can we access them? No, they don't?
Mailing addresses.
yeah, mailing addresses.
I'm betting people pay using emails now.
All right,
There's a
so I think
surcharge,
we
a
have
3% surcharge,
I
so we
think
don't.
we have our referral.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
good?
Great.
Yep.
All right.
Now I know I
So
wear
that-
sneakers.
Thank you. Any other items? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, the next meetings of the Board of Trustees will be May 13th and May 27th, 2025. Thank you and have a good night.
Where are you headed?